Hello, everybody. Gage says it's empty. Let's go see what's in the fridge today. Hey guys, thanks for stopping by Gregsbeerreviews today. Maybe we're going to get lucky and have 210 beers in a row. This is another one that my brother Parrish has sent me from California. Man, you have awesome taste in beers. This is Anderson Valley's huge Arker. What's an Arker? It's got a picture of a turkey on there. And the reason for that is Bourbon Barrel Imperial Stout malt beverage aged 6 months in wild turkey bourbon barrels. That's why the turkey's on the front. It says here it's a 13.5% alcohol by volume beer, which means it can be cellared for indefinitely, just about 15-20 years if you so desire, and can resist temptations to get it out. I would love to cellar this beer, but since he's taken the time to buy that and send it to me, as I tell you guys, this year, instead of trying to stick those beers back in the fridge and let them sit for a year or 2, 3, or 5 or whatever, it's not fair to the guys that buy these beers and send them to me. They pay good money for these beers, and it costs a lot to ship these beers to me. And Parrish has already contacted me and says I'm welcome to sell his beers as long as I want, but I really don't think that's quite fair. So I want to do these beers in a timely manner when y'all buy these beers and send them to me. So with that being said, and that way we can review it fresh and tell you what I'm getting on a fresh bottle. Now, if you want to send me two, like some of the guys have sent me 2 beers. I got 2 of the Fatheads beers. They're Headhunter and their Juju, and they're both IPAs or double IPAs, so I'm not going to sell either one of those. I'm going to review one and drink one. But the ones like this that are big monster beers, and beggars can't be choosers. I'm not begging you to send me 2 beers, Parrish or anybody else. But if I do get 2 like this, I would sell one for probably 3 to 5 years before I review it, and I would review one fresh. And a lot of people have suggested that I if I could, to review an old bottle and a fresh bottle at the same time to compare them, maybe like a Dogfish 20 or a Dogfish 120 or something like that, and that may come. I mean, that stuff comes out once a year, and I do have some old bottles of Dogfish 120 down there. When I first tried that beer several years ago, I mean, it just blew my palate out of my mouth. My taste buds could not comprehend what it was, and I just stuck the rest of them in the fridge, and I haven't bought any more since then. So there are some 120s down there that have been down there 2, 3, 4 years. So it would be nice to pick up a fresh bottle of 120 and grab one of those older bottles out and do a side-by-side comparison, and that may happen this year before I go on vacation. But anyway, let's get back to this one. This looks like an awesome beer, one that I would love to cellar, but we're not going to. We're going to do this fresh. I didn't see any date code on it, but it doesn't mean there's not one on there. I thought Anderson Valley did date their beers, and a lot of times that black digitized writing is very hard for my old feeble eyes, especially since I just had cataract surgery on one of my eyes, for me to see. And even before then, when I was half blind, it's getting better. I mean, I've already noticed the difference in one eye than the other eye that they've done this one. They're going to do this one on the 4th of April. So hopefully by the end of April I'll be able to see again. So we got our fingers crossed. Hopefully after about over $4,000 worth of surgery and cataract lenses, we're hopefully optimistic. So with that being said, I'll be able to see some of the smaller writing that I've been missing on some of these beers, and people have been saying, "Oh, the date's on there. You're just too blind to see it." Yeah, I probably am. So, all right, let's get on with this one, guys. This is a Russian Imperial Stout. And it is bourbon barrel aged, which is my favorite type. Parrish, your taste is just like mine, brother. I do appreciate these beers. I tried calling you Saturday morning and waited. I knew you're in California and waited till about 11 o'clock to call and left a message on your phone just to tell you, other than sending you a message on Facebook or YouTube, how much I appreciate this. I do appreciate it, man. You're awesome, man. I mean, you really are. And I keep saying that, but guys, he blows me away by sending me all these wonderful, awesome beers that he does. So I'm eternally grateful to you, Parrish. Thank you, sir. All right, guys, the food pairing for this, it is an Imperial Stout. So automatically they're going to tell you it goes well with your chocolate dishes. Well, if you like bourbon with your chocolate, this probably would be a good pairing match for this. But this is going to, more than likely, being a fresh bottle and being aged 6 months in wild turkey, which is a pretty stout bourbon to start with, it's going to have some bourbon, some heavy bourbon notes on this. So this will go well with a very strong dish, or even after dinner as an aperitif. So glassware, pint, becker, the non-alcoholic tumbler, snifter. I got the double glass again today, guys, for this beer. I like pouring those porters and stouts, especially these Imperial Stouts that are bourbon barrel aged in this type of glass. The beer can be selling forever and ever, just about. I mean, there's no reason, if you sell this correctly, why this beer wouldn't last 20 years. Alright, guys, I think that's all we need to talk about. Let me look at the commercial description. It just says, love electronics. You touch the wrong button and it goes crazy. I mean, it just went nuts here. Commercial description says Russian Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels. ABV from 11% to 13.5 in 2014, and that's what this one is, 13.5. And that's all the commercial description is, guys. So let's get the cap off of this one. It's almost like Christmas when Parrish sends me a beer package, beer mail package, because I know what's inside the box is going to be freaking awesome. Cheers, brother. 13.5 down the center. And this is a bomber. This is a big bottle. Down the center, not quite too big, about a finger and a half of head on that pour. Over into the light, I'm not kidding any whatsoever, guys. So this stuff is pitch black, very dark beer, very black. Awesome looking beer in a glass. Let's get a nose on it, get a whiff. Wow, I'm pleasantly surprised that there is not an overwhelming bourbon smell in it. The bourbon is there, but I am getting some roasted malt and some chocolate. Maybe a hint of coffee and some dark fruit. I'm very surprised that it's not overwhelmingly bourbon in this. I mean, being as fresh as it is. I guess it's fresh. Like I said, I haven't seen a date on it yet. But the bourbon is there. Wow. Smells very roasty and chocolatey in the nose. With a hint of vanilla there from the bourbon barrel. Well, smells delicious. I hope it tastes delicious. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Parrish. You the one, man. You the number one. Wow. The bourbon is not overwhelming in this beer. The roasted malt, the chocolate, vanilla is coming through. It's just not over. The bourbon is not overpowering the beer. Wow. Very well made beer. For 13.4%, it is impressive. the chocolate and the roasted malt and the vanilla, maybe a hint of tobacco. This beer would go good with a cigar. It really would. This is an awesome tasting beer. And guys, a lot of y'all probably said, well, you're just saying that because he sent it to you. It didn't cost you nothing. I am not. I had people send me beers all the time, and I tell these guys, I'm gonna be brutally honest. I mean, if I don't like it, I'm gonna tell you I don't like it. Or if it's not a good beer, I'm gonna say it's not a good beer, or it's gonna get a 5 or a 6 or a 7 in the scale. But Parrish has got an awesome beer taste, and he is in California where he can get his hands on some awesome beers. So I'm not, and I can get Anderson Valley here, but I have not seen this particular version of the beer. He gets some stuff that's only released in California to the California guys, and he has, and this stuff, and I tell you guys this all the time, the beer distribution in Virginia sucks. I mean, it takes them forever to get a beer from the West Coast to the East Coast through all the distribution lines, and the big guys, the Anheuser-Busch, Bud Miller, Coors guys, basically they control the distribution and have controlled it here since Prohibition ended, and they determine what goes on the shelves and what don't go on the shelves, and what they want to carry and what they don't want to carry. And if they only get a case of this, they probably give it to their friends or special occasions. It don't even make it to the stores. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, you pad my hand, I'll pad your hand. You know, we only got one case of this. We're not going to even send it out. We're going to do something different with it. You know, you got to know somebody to get some of this kind of stuff. So that's how it is in the real world, just like it is in Washington D.C. It's not who you know, it's who you blow. I mean, that's the real world. It's sad, but that's the way it is, and that's the way it is in the beer distribution in Virginia. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If they only get a very limited case, a very limited distribution part of it, if they send them a case of this beer, it won't even get to the stores. I mean, that'll go to somebody's house, and the guy running the warehouse, and the guy, you know, that's how it is. That's the real world. That's just the way it is. And that's guys that like to drink this kind of beer. We just left out in the cold, sucking the hind titty. And it's sad, but that's just the way it is. So I'm so grateful to Parrish and a lot of the other guys, Dave and John and Andrew and Matt and all the guys that send me these beers. I mean, thanks from the bottom of my heart, because I cannot get these beers, and if I was waiting for the beer distribution guys in Virginia to get them to me, I'd be dead and down in the ground. So, guys, this beer is awesome, but it's right out of the fridge, probably around 45 degrees. We're going to let it warm up, may even fire up a cigar, and we'll come back when we do the final chug on this, let the other half have the other half of the bottle. I know she's going to love it. Wow, what a delicious beer. I'll be right back. Alright guys, I'm back. Got just a little bit left here. This is a delicious beer. One more sip here. Now that it's warmed up, been sipping on this one for probably 30-45 minutes now. Very tasty. Rich chocolate malt, chocolate, dark fruit, like burnt molasses. The vanilla's there from the oak aged in the bourbon barrels. The bourbon is definitely not overpowering in this beer. I'm pleasantly surprised that it's not overpowering. I bought the bourbon stout. I mean, as soon as you pop the cap on the bottle, it's just bourbon, 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 bourbon. This is not. I was going to check for a date on this, and I don't think there is one on there. I am surprised that it does not have some kind of dating on it, because I thought Anderson Valley did dating on their bottles. So I have no idea when this was put in. You know, like I said, my eyes are not as good as they should be to detect those black digitized codes. That's why I hold it up to the light, and I do not see anything on the bottle. That does not mean it is not there. But when it comes to me looking for it and can't finding it, I mean, this is the same as somebody in the store looking for it while the beer is still in there and not finding it. It's not that critical on a beer this big, because like I said, this beer will sell up for years and years and years to come. So it's not going to go bad. But the bourbon may have subsided a little bit if this bottle is a year or 2, 3 years old. So I don't know. But still, with that being said, it's not going to go bad, and it's still very, very tasty. The bourbon is not as pronounced as I thought it was going to be in this beer, but the chocolate malt, the roastiness, the vanilla, the burnt caramel, the toffee, and a hint of dark fruit, maybe a hint of tobacco in there, goes well with a nice cigar that I had earlier. So let's do the final chug on this one. The alcohol, now that's warmed up, is definitely more present than it was when it was cold. 13.4%. This is a big beer. This is a sipper, not a chugger. You wanted to drink this slowly and not just gulp it down. Pour it into a nice glass and not drink it out of the bottle like a barbarian. But it's awesome. Anderson Valley does some really good stuff, and their bigger beers are really impressive. Very well made beer. Just would like to have a more pronounced bottling code on here, either in yellow or white, stamped on the bottle, or even printed on the label. If they're going to do a beer this big, and they're going to charge considerably more for it than their regular canned beers or bottled beers, they ought to take the time and the expense, whatever that is, to put a date on it, even though it's not that critical on a beer like this, but it just gives us some kind of hint of when it was put in a bottle, so we know to sell her this beer is a year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old, or however old it is. So that's the information that I would kind of like to see on the beers, and as long as it's not there, I'm going to keep harping about it, guys, especially when you're paying $10, $15, $20 for a 22-ounce bomber of an Imperial Stout like this one is, even though it's aged in a wild turkey bourbon barrel. I would kind of like to know when it was put in the bottle. That's just kind of information that I want to have. So, with that being said, it is still an awesome beer. Paris, thanks again, sir, for sending me this beer. It was delicious. It was very delicious. For a bourbon barrel stout, which is what I'm grading this beer on, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Not quite to the 10 scale, because the bourbon is not as pronounced as I thought it was going to be, but that would have something to do with the age of the beer and how long it's been in the bottle. That bourbon may have subsided for a little bit for as long as it's been in the bottle. Without that date code on there, we don't know how long it's been in the bottle. I mean, this may be a fresh bottle. It may be a year old, 5 years old. I really don't know. And the average consumer is not going to know either when they go into the beer store and they see this sitting on the shelf. They don't know how long that beer has been in the bottle. So, still would like to have that kind of dating code on there, either on the label or on the bottle, especially if it's a pricey beer like I'm sure this one was. So, Paris, you may put some comments on the beer review of what this beer costs. I've not seen this beer here in Virginia, so let me know what this beer costs when you buy the 22-ounce bomber. But it was still pretty damn tasty. I have had some better bourbon barrel aged stouts than this one, but it was still damn tasty. Alright guys, 9 out of 10 is what I got. Let's go over to Beer Advocate. Beer Advocate says 86 in the very good range. I may be a little generous, so I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. That's probably a 6 or a 7 according to their scale. So, I don't know. What do you think, guys? Let's go over to Rate Beer. Rate Beer has no score, requires more ratings. And they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out of 7 ratings, I think they can come up with a rating. So I think, I don't know how many ratings they require to have before they give it a score. But I think after at least 5 beer ratings, they ought to be able to come up with a decent score there. So, and looking at the scores, 4.1, 3.9, 4.1, 3.6, 4, 3.9, and 4. So, out of a scale of 5, that's what they do. That's about where I'm giving it. between a minus and an A. And that's where I'm putting it. I'm putting it at about a 95, between 94 and 95, if I was putting a numeric rating on this beer, guys. So, with that being said, if you've had this one from Anderson Valley, this is their huge Arker Bourbon Barrel Imperial Stout malt beverage aged 6 months in wild turkey bourbon barrels. And even being aged 6 months in those bourbon barrels, is it a new bourbon barrel, or has it had beer in it before and the bourbon is more subdued? They don't tell you whether it's a new bourbon barrel or it's a used bourbon barrel and how many times they're using that bourbon barrels for this beer. So a lot of information we don't know. So definitely tell the bourbon is there. Definitely, and you can't, to me, I can't tell if it's wild turkey. It could be in some other bourbon barrel or whatever. So with that being said, 9 out of 10 is what I give it. I gave you the ratings from the other guys, so I think that Rate Beer could come up with a rating after they had about 7 reviews on it, and they do not. So they're kind of leaving it up to us guys to lead you in the right direction. I did enjoy this beer. I think it's very tasty. Don't think it's quite to the 10 scale because, to me, the bourbon is more subdued than I anticipated it being, and that may be due to age, and with them not putting the bottling date on the beer, how do we know? So, with that being said, Paris, thanks again, brother, for sending me this beer. I did enjoy it. I just wish they would put a date code on it so we know how fresh it is. That's the bottom line. So, guys, if you've had this one from Anderson Valley, give me some comments back on this one, whether you liked it, didn't like it. I did like it. I think there's better bourbon barrel aged beers out there, but it was very tasty. Went well with the cigar that I was smoking with this one. So a little more boozy as it warms up than it was when it was cold, but it's still very delicious and very tasty. I like these kind of beers for the last beer of the evening, which is this one was. So hit that like button, rate, comment, subscribe if you hadn't already, and let's go see what's in the fridge tomorrow. Maybe it'll be a 10. Join me then. We'll see you together.